When I married Mike 3 years ago, I knew he came with baggage. Not the emotional kind most people talk about, but a 16-year-old son named Jake who was still trying to process the divorce between his parents. I didn't expect him to warm up to me instantly. I wasn't that naive, but I had hoped he wouldn't shut me out entirely. In the beginning, he did. Jake was quiet, reserved, and spent most of his time in his room with the door closed. He barely acknowledged my presence and only came out to eat or go to school. I tried everything. Cooking his favorite meals, offering help with his homework, inviting him to join Mike and me on outings. But nothing worked. He remained this shadow that hovered around the house, distant and untouchable. It was hardest when Mike traveled for work. His job as a project manager for a construction firm meant he was gone 3 to 5 days a week. Those were the days Jake and I barely exchanged more than a few sentences, and even those were laced with awkwardness. One Saturday afternoon, I was cleaning up the living room when I heard strange noises coming from Jake's room. At first, I thought he might have left the TV on too loud, but as I walked down the hall, I noticed something else. Soft sobbing. Not loud or dramatic, just a broken, muffled cry, like someone trying desperately not to be heard. I paused outside his door, torn between respecting his privacy and my instinct to help. Something inside me said this wasn't just a random emotional moment. There was pain behind those walls, and it wasn't the kind a teenager easily confessed to. Against my better judgment, I gently knocked. "Jake," I said softly. "Everything okay?" The sobbing stopped instantly. Waited. No answer. "I'm not here to bother you," I added. "Just checking in." Still silence. I started to walk away, but something told me not to. I turned the doorknob gently. It wasn't locked. Jake was sitting on the floor next to his bed, arms around his knees, eyes red and puffy. He looked like a ghost of himself, so small, so vulnerable. "Get out," he mumbled, not even looking at me. "I will," I said, taking a small step in. "But only if you tell me you're okay." "I said I'm fine." "You're crying." Jake wiped his face roughly with his sleeve, clearly embarrassed. "Just leave me alone." I wanted to. I really did. But I couldn't ignore what I was seeing. This wasn't a kid throwing a tantrum or dealing with school stress. This was something deeper, darker. "I'm not here to be your mom, Jake. I know that. But I do care. And if something's wrong, you can talk to me." He looked up at me then, eyes filled with anger, sadness, and something else. "Fear, maybe?" "You wouldn't understand," he whispered. "Try me." There was a long pause. Then, as if something in him cracked open, he spoke. "I hate living here," he said bitterly. "I hate everything. My dad's always gone, and when he's here, he acts like nothing's wrong. My mom barely talks to me anymore. She's got a new family now. And you're just here, pretending everything's normal." I sat down on the floor across from him, giving him space. "I'm not pretending. I know things aren't easy." "You don't get it," he snapped. "You don't know what it's like to feel like no one wants you. Like you're just in the way." His words hit me hard. I'd been so focused on building a bridge between us that I hadn't seen how broken he already was. This wasn't about me or his father or even his mother. This was about a kid who felt like he didn't belong anywhere. "I do get that more than you think," I said gently. "When I was your age, my mom remarried too. I didn't like my stepdad. I felt like I didn't matter anymore. I know it's different, but I know what it feels like to be angry and lost." He looked at me surprised. "Really?" "Yeah," I nodded. "And I know it doesn't just go away overnight. But you're not alone, Jake. Even if it feels that way." He didn't say anything, but the tension in his shoulders eased slightly. That was the first time we connected, not as stepmom and stepson, but as two people who'd been hurt by the people they trusted. Over the next few weeks, things slowly began to change. Jake didn't exactly become chatty or affectionate, but he started coming out of his room more. He'd sit with me during dinner when Mike was away, sometimes even help with the dishes. It was small progress, but I took it as a win. Then came the incident that brought us even closer. One evening I came home from the grocery store and found Jake sitting on the porch steps, staring at nothing. His hands were shaking and his phone was lying next to him, screen cracked. "What happened?" I asked, alarmed. "I got into a fight," he said quietly. My heart dropped. "Are you okay?" "Where?" "With who?" "Some guy at school," he muttered. "He said something about my mom." I lost it. We went inside, and I helped him clean a small cut on his lip. He winced but didn't pull away. "You can't solve things with violence, Jake." "I know," he sighed. "But I was so mad." "That's normal. But you have to find better ways to deal with your anger." "I try," he said, his voice cracking. "Sometimes I don't know what to do. I sit in my room and I think. Sometimes I punch my pillow. Sometimes I cry." He paused, eyes flickering with hesitation. "Sometimes I just feel like disappearing." That statement chilled me to my core. I reached for his hand, and this time he didn't pull away. "Jake, if you ever feel like that, like disappearing, you have to tell someone. Me, your dad, a teacher, anyone. That feeling doesn't last, I promise you. And you don't have to face it alone." He nodded, a tear rolling down his cheek. I hugged him. It was the first time he let me. From that moment on, our bond deepened. I became someone he could talk to, someone he could lean on. He still had his struggles, anxiety, anger, confusion, but he wasn't bottling it all up anymore. Mike noticed the change too. One evening he pulled me aside and said, "I don't know what you did, but Jake's different. He talks to me more." He even asked me to play catch last weekend. Smiled. He just needed someone to listen. Over time, Jake began to thrive. He joined the school's art club, started hanging out with a couple of good kids, and even brought home a B+ in English. His highest grade that year. He still had his moments, but they were no longer moments of silence and tears. They were conversations, sometimes arguments, but always communication. One night, about a year after that first breakdown, Jake knocked on my bedroom door. I opened it and saw him standing there awkwardly. "I just wanted to say thanks," he said. "For not giving up on me. For helping." I smiled, genuinely touched. "You're welcome. I still don't think of you as my mom or anything," he added quickly, scratching the back of his head. "I don't need you to," I replied. "Just knowing you're okay, that's enough for me." He nodded and turned to leave but paused. "But if I did ever start to think of you that way, would that be okay?" I felt a lump form in my throat. "That would be more than okay, Jake." As he walked away, I realized something important. Family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about showing up, listening, and being there when it matters most. I never set out to be Jake's mom. I just wanted to help. And in doing so, I found something even deeper. A bond that, though unexpected, became unbreakable.